Hi there, Caitlin. Nick van den Berg here. Thank you very much for having me. And today we're joined by, I think, Davi, just before I get into this, I think this is what, AMA 57, 58 now. So, I mean, we've been doing this now for 58 days. So welcome, fam. Today I'm joined by Dr. Davi Null from DAG Technology. He's actually got his doctorate in IT. So we're talking to a doctor today, which is somewhat scary sometimes, Davi, but congratulations on getting your doctorate.
Thank you.
And as part of our ongoing AMA series, certainly, Davi, thank you for joining us. And to start, could you just introduce yourself and share a little bit about DAG Tech, its focus, what its scope is, and the role it's playing within the broader Web3 ecosystem and infrastructure landscape, and more importantly, what made you choose BlockDAG or BlockDAG and BDAG as a means of introducing what you're doing in the Web3 space.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I think we've been chatting offline, day in and day out so many times. So firstly, my name is Davi. I'm a CTO of DAG Tech. Our business was created specifically around the BlockDAG infrastructure. When we got wind of the project, we immediately jumped onto it because of technically what it meant for us. And our focus is really to build scalable infrastructure technology solutions. It's always been the focus, and it's definitely been my experience up until now. And with the association with BlockDAG specifically, we've looked at how do we build something that has got the performance and the reliability in this space, because this space is extremely convoluted. And this project specifically stands out to us significantly because of the tech that it provides, specifically looking at ignoring everything else. And if we look at just the technology and the technology layer that it offers, it really looks like something that we want to be interested in, or that we are interested in, and that we are investing quite heavily in, to the point of us setting up a large format mining operation outside South Africa, actually in the UAE. I've relocated to the UAE myself with my family to build this environment.
That's quite incredible, actually, to think about it. And I mean, we speak about this a lot, and I've been speaking about this on the AMAs. It's like having the foundation from a mainnet perspective to be open for business. And that leads me into, my next point, which is infrastructure partners certainly play a huge role, behind the scenes. And you've alluded to the conversation that we've had, and obviously the investment that it's going to take and require for you to set up, mining pools and also infrastructure around the world. So from your perspective, what has stood out from, BlockDAG's technology standpoint? And, I think for you and I, obviously having discussed this over some time, where I'm excited is the ability to be able to now, since last night's AMA, where we've redeployed, Uniswap, Mercury, DEAR in terms of various protocols. How do you see that play out in what you're delivering? But obviously, you're more focused on architecture. You're more focused on the baseline, infrastructure. Do you see this obviously expanding our ecosystem over time?
Yeah. So I mean, let's separate your expertise and mine. My focus is definitely within the infrastructure space to be able to host such a mining operation at a scale. And I mean, I'm not afraid to say that our scale that we're looking at is to have 2,000 to 3,000 miners running within the next year and a half within this operation, and having that globally set up. Specifically aligned with BlockDAG, it's important that we say that we've decided to back BlockDAG because of extensive discussions with yourself, and with Jeremy with regards to how the actual technology works, with regards to the uniqueness of how the DAG environment and mining setup is actually done. And the proof's in the eating, right? Proof's in what we've seen over the last while with regards to how the transactions are actually happening, and the test mining rigs that we've set up, and what the performance ratios and performance metrics are that's coming out of that. So for me, the core focus for us as DAG Tech is definitely to have the mining operation set up as well as it can, with the right pools and nodes, and then obviously all the security that it entails, which is made a hell of a lot easier with the way that you guys have set up the backend infrastructure for us to be able to interact with. But then on top of that, I mean, it makes no sense for us to just have a mining operation and then we mine coin. There's also has to be usage or functionality behind why we're doing this. And I think the stuff that you've been speaking about in the last couple of AMAs definitely speaks to that. It speaks to how do we consume this? You know, for our question that I've had with our executive team over the last while is, it's good that we are building the foundation with regards to mining, but how do we take that forward? How do we consume our own lunch? In other words, use it for ourselves. And you know, I've said to you that one of our objectives from the DAG Tech point of view is actually to take the actual chain, put our own coin on it, and when we have people hosting or using us as a hosting provider, which is something that we are aggressively looking at, is that we actually use that on-chain token or coin that we've created for ourselves, called whatever we want to call it, to actually get paid in it. So we're actually using the chain for our own payment mechanism. So again, consumption of the product itself, and not just the mining of it. All the other attachments that we're speaking about now just makes this thing such a more attractive offering for Joe Soap and Joe Public that's out there, because it is confusing. I mean, the cryptography space is extremely confusing, and having tangible stuff that we can touch on a daily basis to see, this is how I'm going to be using it, this is what it makes it, how it makes sense for my business, this is how I implement it into my business, with regards to some of the things that you've said already. I mean, that is the cream on top, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I mean, you know, before I get into the next question, just to add to what you said, I mean, been saying that actually now for a number of months, certainly around the readiness to be able to deliver on a core offering, which is Mainnet, utilizing our DAG infrastructure, but having the conversations that you and I have had, which is around how do we get to a point whereby there's integration of BlockDAG's infrastructure into day-to-day business. And that's where you're building business. And I spoke about this the last time. It's like old business building, you know, it's like building businesses that attract, you know, balance sheet revenue, attract a long-term sustainability, which is around integrating our solution into real world businesses. And you just hit the nail on the head there, proverbial, which is around utilizing it as a payment mechanism, utilizing it as potentially a stable coin within your business to do remittances or settle in, you know, in invoices or whatever it may be. And I think that to me is the key. So when, you know, when the community often hears about these milestones, and certainly, you know, like Mainnet launches and the ecosystem rollout, it's not always the technical work that you get to see, isn't it? And, you know, if you could, you know, what does it take in order to, you know, get something of this nature up and running from an infrastructure perspective? What is the readiness, you know, of your project as it moves towards obviously broader trading we've spoken about, and obviously wider adoption? You're going to be in a perfect position where you know, have 2,000, you know, miners that are then facilitating consensus in our network, but more importantly, thinking about it from a decentralization perspective. And people could probably argue that, you know, in one group it's maybe more central than decentral, but the reality is, you know, you're going to have other miners then be able to then, you know, point to your pool. So if you set up 2,000 pools, you know, that in itself is quite an achievement. And also don't discount the fact that we're launching our staking reward contract that is natively integrated to the protocol, for which then the community at large is going to be able to benefit from what you're doing as an infrastructure play.
Yeah, you got it. You got it spot on. So a couple of things. The first one is addressing the how you set this thing up. You know, I've been since the first white paper was released, I've spent quite a considerable amount of hours building various network routes and specific restrictive setups so that we can secure this beast, right? Because we can't hide this thing under a bucket anymore. No. I mean, it's definitely out there. You know, the name is well known in the industry, and I think there are definitely a lot of, as you would have seen, and as we would have seen with all the wallet cases and the stuff that we've assisted the support guys with, there's a lot of people out there that wants to do harm to not only this project, but actually make their bit of buck on the side. So trying to scam this network. And that's where my expertise comes in with regards to setting up secure network infrastructure from grounds roots all the way up to cloud-based infrastructure. I mean, I work aggressively with Jeremy and the technical guys to make sure that once we set up the network, the core network infrastructure, the MPLS networking, and the firewalling and stuff, that we provide a stable, that's the first thing, stable and secure platform for people to be able to host and for ourselves. So remember, we are our own, we are consuming our own lunch. So we're putting miners into our data centers, right? So we want to make sure those things are churning out to BDAG at a rate that is hopefully higher than anybody else that's in the market. And because of that, make it as attractive as possible for other people to come in. So I need to make sure that I've got the security set up and properly initialized. I need to have the visibility with regards to the people having the ability to see how their operations are actually mining, how we're doing, on a daily basis. What does the bean counters in the corner say with regards to are we hitting the numbers that we're supposed to? So building out these monitoring agents in a language that an average human or a bean counter can understand has been my focus for the last, let's say, 4 to 5 to 6 months while I've been in the UAE. And we've partnered with a couple of guys to see what's best of breed, because I believe that best of breed is the right way to go with this. You've definitely shown us that with regards to the people that you've involved into the project, with regards to their focuses. And to bring that story a bit closer, to make it a bit shorter, is we've made sure that we set up something that can leverage DAG Tech above everybody else, using BlockDAG's advantage, the technology advantage of a direct acyclic graph type setup, and the way that the transactions are being settled and the speed of it. The edge case, or the edge to everybody else in the market that is not associated with BlockDAG as an ecosystem is we need to have stable, fast networks that is reliable and secure, and that will bring the customers. So a single line for us is income line or income stream for us is mining. A second income stream is based on our quality of mining, having other people wanting to stake with us in our pool, right?
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Agreed.
And in all the other products that you've spoken about, to get those to start to latch on to use as part of the ecosystem.
No, I mean, I think 100% on that. And I think, as you've just spoken about now, innovation is key to, not only an innovation around infrastructure, but also as we are expanding our ecosystem with staking and additional utility. We spoke about, building out our launch of our NFT marketplace, which is happening this week, which is very exciting. I'm going to be doing a live demo of that during the course of this week, as well as the live demo of our staking reward platform. And it's really around adding these utilities, which is obviously core to what we are providing into the community. If you wouldn't mind just talking about that innovation and, try and dumbing it down for, the average community member that is holding, BDAG at the moment, just unpack, the advantage that they could potentially gain from staking within your pool environment, maybe potentially versus others. Obviously, I'm not here to give any, financial advice from that perspective, but, if you could just talk around, the infrastructure itself and the capabilities of it, and if you can give any level of detail of what it's going to take to effectively, support 2,000 miners. I think, the community will be very interested in how that comes about.
Well, it's an interesting question. Thanks, Nick. I think
sorry if it's a tough one, but
no,
I think the community really wants to know about, there's a whole adage of decentralized versus centralized, and then obviously having the ability to, spawn 2,000 plus pools facilitates a real decentralized ecosystem, but at the same time, there's some centralized infrastructure that's running it.
100%. So I think to try and put it into user terms, I'm a geek after all. So I mean, I'm definitely not a business person like yourself. I speak geek pretty frequently, and if I run out of geek, I speak nonsense most of the days.
You may speak as much geek as you want to today. I promise you.
So the idea for us is guys, is we're trying to adopt the framework that's already built with a decentralized environment or system. Now, as much as we want to decentralize even mining, there is centralization that needs to take place. So these things need to sit in a location at some point to be able to start churning out numbers. But what we've done, and I'm hoping I'm not giving away too much of our IP here, is we've actually staggered our deployment of how many rigs we put down per physical site. And that allows for us to do quite a few things. It allows for us to have redundancies built into the environment. We've specifically geolocated ourselves in a location that's got stable infrastructure, stable power, and quite a lot of different type of hosting environments, which is key for us. So we understand that we are going to be measured as DAG Tech on the quality of our mining and our hash rates, and ultimately how many blocks we can actually crunch versus how much we reject. So it's critical that we make sure that the infrastructure, and let's talk about the infrastructure very briefly. You need to have proper internet connectivity, but you need to make sure that internet connectivity is very secure and it only allows the right type of traffic to be flowing over it. On top of that, you need to make sure that your physical infrastructure where these things are kept are secure and under lock and key. Again, geographically, why we're situated where we are. You need to make sure that you decentralize your risk. In other words, if you're talking about 2,000 miners, we're definitely not going to build one big data center and chuck them all into one big data center, because you're putting up yourself for risk. The future of where we're going with this thing is where it becomes really sexy, and yes, again, geek speak, is when we talk about the higher quality miners and the more industrialized miners at some point. Looking at the different types of hosting, looking at air-cooled hosting, looking at semi-cooled, semi-liquid cooled, and fully submersive, and all of those things that's still coming. It's still coming to this ecosystem that's still in its infancy. That's the stuff where we really start getting ourselves rigged for making sure that we build something that's built for not just 2026, but for the next 10, 15 years, right? So sustainability is key. But bringing it back to what does it mean for Joe Soap in the street is DAG Tech. We have to provide pools that if you look on a screen and that screen says pool Excalibur is what it will officially be known as. So I'm allowed to name.
Giving the bag away there.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to name drop. Calling it Excalibur?
Excalibur, yeah.
Nice,
I'm allowed to name drop that.
Arthur and his round table and his knights of the realm.
Yes. So the reason somebody wants to be part of except for the cool name, other reason for being associated with it is because you can see it in the stats, right? The stats has to prove it. The stats has to show the hash rate's good, the stability is good, the security is there. We don't have issues. We're not going to have people running in and out of the data centers itself. We've got expertise in all the layers. I mean, my 25 years in IT is certainly being tested on a daily basis to make sure that this thing is set up properly. We've partnered with some of the best guys in this industry. I mean, and for the people that doesn't know, and you'll have some insights into this, is the UAE is spending a lot of effort into the Web3 space, specifically in the crypto space. So partnering with these guys and using what they are giving us and leveraging off that to be able to build a world-class infrastructure setup for mining is where we're going with it.
That's really incredible, and thank you again for joining us and sharing, those insights from a DAG Tech perspective. Not only your approach to infrastructure, but what does it look like from a long-term ecosystem support perspective. Appreciate this level of collaboration that we've had, and just for the community, it's purely been on the basis of support conversations, understanding each other. Figuring out, what the best way forward is with regards to, as you said, centralization from your perspective versus a decentralized ecosystem, but leveraging the best of both worlds. This is the last on the side. I'd be very interested to know, and I'm sure you have these numbers or you've geeked them out a little bit. What is the power consumption required in this type of infrastructure? I mean, we obviously speak about the X30 and the X100 in terms of its low capacity from a power utilization perspective, but if you start to obviously build this on scale, I'm sure you've looked at the wattage and the various other components that go into this. Just explain that as a last parting thought. I mean, I always find it very, very interesting. How do you go about obviously factoring that into, how many mining pools you set up versus the hash rate versus the, the various, I guess, infrastructures that you're going to set up around the world? How does that play a part?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I've always wanted to ask that question, so at least now I get to ask it.
You can fire away. So if I hope the answer lives up to the question, because it's a very important question. I mean, in the cryptography space, if you look at all the other competition that's out there and what the other guys are doing, that is probably the single biggest factor, right? The cost of energy and infrastructure and hosting versus the output of what you're getting from hash rate or from hash power, and what does that mean? And I think there's a golden ratio. There's a well-defined calculator that I'm happy to share with the community. But there's a ratio that you want to hit with regards to what your consumption is versus what your hash rate is. The good news is that that's not even on the table for BlockDAG at this stage, and that's why we're so extremely excited about BlockDAG. Is because you know, the X100 that I've been testing or playing with, I've been able to max out at about, you know, let's say 370 to 380 watts consumption, and that's within the space that and the confinements that we've had so far with regards to the dev nets and test nets that we've been playing with. And you know, if you scale that up and you compare it to a normal ASIC miner that sits on Bitcoin, I mean, those things run at 1.7, 1.8 to 2 kilowatts per machine. Now we're sitting with a machine that can run, let's say optimally, let's say it runs at full tilt at 900 to 1 kilowatt per machine. It means that for the same amount of footprint as a proper ASIC miner, you're getting more hash rates, much higher hash rates. We are getting less power consumption, and here you pay by the economy for mining is in power, the cost of power, right? So you pay for, doesn't matter how much space you consume, you actually pay per kilowatt used. So this makes it sexy for us. If you look at what we're getting out of something like an X100 with regards to the hash rate and the power that it consumes, it means that we can actually get away with smaller footprint, lower consumption for the same or higher output than anybody else that's out there. So not giving away too much of the numbers, we try and restrict our sites to have X amount of megawatt per site. And we also play with the functionality of the X30 and X100s that's got dual power supplies, right, for the redundancy point of view. So we are actually overutilizing the power a little bit, but we believe it's important to make sure that the redundancy of the box itself with regards to the two power supplies are leveraged as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I guess, as you said, it's all about location when it comes to power utilization. And you've taken it even further, which is looking at it from a square meterage perspective. How many X30s, X100s I can stack within that square meterage? What is my power utilization of that environment versus obviously what am I paying for it? So thank you for answering that question. I know that I certainly wanted to answer it and have it answered, and I'm sure the community did too. So again, appreciate the time. Thank you for joining with us, and you know, see you face to face, I'm sure. But thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you joining us today and giving some insight into your business, as well as obviously what the future looks like.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us, guys. I think in closing, I think from our point of view, as much as we believe we're a significant force to be dealt with within this space, we believe we've backed the right pony, right? We believe that BlockDAG is the way that not just for 2026, but for the future. So we're very happy to be associated. We're very happy to have the open door policy that we've got with you guys, with being able to chat to you. So thanks to you and to Jeremy and to the entire team. I mean, I speak to the dev team guys 2 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it's the same guy, and he hasn't slept in the last like 72 hours. But
that would be Ben. That's Ben. That is sometimes Ben, or it's Joshua. So yeah.
So we're very appreciative of the hours that the guys have put in, and we can see the fruits, right? We can see it coming alive day to day. And I think Nick, something that I wanted to just say in closing is, you've had good stories to say, good stories to tell in every AMA. I mean, I message Nick after every AMA and say, listen, another good story to tell. And I believe that that's a sign of the future. So thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate your support as well. Thanks so much. Cheers, guys.